Hello. So, as we've all noticed by now, there was a major event this week. And I've spoken about this event and I know in my heart that I should not talk about this subject. But one of the things I've said already requires that I say more. I don't know, I don't care really whether you like it or not, but in my view, and what does it matter? What does my view matter? Well, while this election was going on, I seem to have been one of the focus groups. Oddly, white males. And we were supposed to be in the bag for one specific candidate, especially, I go even further, white working class male. We were supposed to be in the bag for the side that won. And I was not. But I said before that when Trump got elected the first time, President Trump got elected the first time, he had made legendary status. From my perspective, especially, because I view him in a certain way. And the person I see him as, if anybody that is that type of person makes that kind of achievement, they have reached legendary status. I also said that he lost that, not by losing the election, but by the way he reacted to the loss, the big lie, the insurrection, all of this crap. That cost him legendary status. But look at this guy's story. Even if you think of him as the shady businessman, which is how I see him, that shady businessman took on all of this power and he friggin' won. And then he lost and he dealt with. Just take a second. Would you want to have the last 4 years that Trump had? Freaking constantly in court, constantly getting hit from every single side. And he took all of that and he won again. Nobody like me, whether you like him or not, you cannot take that legendary status away from him now. I don't even think he could lose it. Like the first time he had it, he kind of lost it through his own actions. I don't even know that he could lose this through his own actions anymore. I'm pretty sure that this is just history being made, and he is a legendary status. He is a legendary symbol now, like him or not. Because even if you see him with that filter that is definitely one part common sense and another part fear, even if that's how you see him, you cannot take away the status he's obtained now. If you don't recognize and respect, I think you have something more to work on in yourself than worry about that. Congratulations, President Trump. So, how did you? I mean, because you didn't just win, you kicked ass all across the country. I mean, if you were going to win, this is the best way for you to win because, I mean, there's no question. Everybody else thrown down and they've said, you know what, you've got it. And if something comes up from the left where they think they've got you in something like you cheated or whatever, because that's what we were all expecting. At this point, if you're on the left and you find that thing, if you don't have absolute rock solid condemning evidence with a good story to go with it, just sit down and shut up. How did we get here? I'm asking the Democrats now. I don't consider myself a Democrat. The left is just as religious and screwy as the right, hands down. They're equal problems on both sides. But how did you get here? the reason why I was a target group or a part of the focus is because we, at least I don't, like the working class, we didn't see you as strong at all. You ran an election of vibes. You know, vibes sell on dating apps and social media. They don't actually sell when I'm hard at work. Well, some vibes do. Yeah. But not the vibes of politics. Not only did you look weak, but it was all thrown together at the last minute. And on top of that, there was no plan. Nothing. There's no plan from either side about this, as Bill Maher said Friday, about the top problem in the world today. No plan on anybody's side. Not from big business, not from big charity, not from the United States, which is supposedly the most advanced in the world. There's no plan. And these plans aren't all that hard to conceive. Plastic. If it is true that only 8% of the plastic we have sent off to be recycled has actually been recycled, and the rest of it finds its way to barges and other countries, you don't think you can come up with a plan to solve this problem? I think this problem can solve itself practically. Build the facility, all the infrastructure's in place, it's getting the garbage barges and out to the ocean. Build the world's largest plastic recycling facility, and instead of using the infrastructure to send it off, collect it. Find ways to regulate plastic to make it profitable to recycle so that it doesn't stay in the hands of the government, but it gets eventually broken down, reiterated throughout the world in the hands of business. If that's what you want, if that's democracy, somebody has to get a plan. It doesn't sound like something that should be this hard to do. And you're the only side that seems to care about this stuff. I am working on my side right now. I am working on it. But the side that seems to be most interested in making changes to the world that we've built looks too weak, and the side that looks strong is completely disinterested. I don't know why both sides are talking about tariffs, but if you want to have a specific tariff, start with plastics. Build that facility, use the infrastructure to start getting some shit figured out inside it. How we get the plastics that aren't being recycled to the facility, how we discover which plastics are better for recycling and which ones are worse. Then put tariffs on any product that uses plastics that are in those worst categories until you uniform that industry, because there are a lot of different kinds of plastics. Different usages, I get it, but a lot of those different usages are cost. If we are going to use the capitalistic system, then those companies need to be somehow unified so we're not making the mess we've already made worse. But nobody has any plan like that. Why again should I vote for your side? And you know, until you get a plan for something that makes sense in the world, I think this is a really good time for reflection, because you just got your ass kicked for good reason. And you know what? Just on a personal note, this sets back my hopes for legalized marijuana by quite a ways, I think. And I'm really not happy with you for that one. I should do a talk just on that, but look at the time and place of this election. See, when I was going through all the research to try and figure out what I was going to say before up to the election, there was one parallel drawn between Jesus when he was coming into, they're laying down palm leaves in front of him. He's on a sorry, let me clarify. The parallel was between Barabbas and Trump. It's a false parallel. It doesn't make logical sense. But the idea was that the people who were there when the Romans are telling them, hey, we'll give you back one of our prisoners. You could have Jesus, this guy who's done nothing wrong. Or you could have this guy Barabbas. And the ego of the crowd, those voting, raising their hands, yelling and making a ruckus, and voting for Barabbas, they were voting out of ego. They wanted Jesus to come in as a conqueror, but he was coming in as a lamb. He could come in as nothing else but the lamb, because their ego is telling them to free Barabbas, their strong man. The false comparison here, it wasn't Trump or Jesus. That's bullshit. But the truth of the comparison is that the ego of the far right was telling them they're strong man. That was the point they were trying to make. It's a false comparison. What Jesus is doing in this exact position is the work he was here to do. Their egos are telling them to cry out for Barabbas. And I would make the argument that they could do nothing else. Because Jesus' work in being there was to be the lamb because of that flaw in humanity. The ego, the spirit based in ego. That was the very defining moment of his work. He could do nothing but be the lamb to solve that problem. I am working on a talk about faith-based in ego or spirit-based in ego. So when you're doing a project like that, first off, ego becomes a major focus, because anything I say has to be with conscious awareness of that ego problem. To physically sit down and talk to the world about ego carries with it inherent risks of ego. Because Jesus did that work over 2,000 years ago. And here we are 2,000 years into this, still trying to come past, to work beyond the problem he came to solve, which is our spirituality, or faith based in ego. When I see the right lifting up any man, let alone President Trump, and saying that he is doing his work of God, for God, that is faith based in ego, without grounding in any fact. And it is dangerous historically. We have certain subject matter that needs to come to the foreground for litigation, for laws, for infrastructure on how to control this mess. One of them is social media. And President Trump, the legendary President Trump, is vulnerable through social media and laying out the groundwork and laws around it, because he owns a social media company. One of the other areas in which we need regulation is this stupid digital currency. There has been so much fraud, there has been so much loss and damage done. The farming of it costs us so much in energy and pollution. And there again, the legendary President Trump has himself digital currency. That is a market in which he is a prominent figure. These are dangerous areas. And to give the person who is in that position the elevation, not just of legendary, which I am giving him, but that spirit based in ego, that faith based in ego, that he is doing God's work while doing this and being this vulnerable is highly dangerous, historically speaking. He kicked butt. He is the president. He is legendary, but he is not that. We have been told that a portion, a percentage of what we saw as inflation, the cost of bacon, eggs, coffee, whatever, is gouging. That corporations are using the opportunity of perceived inflation to gouge, to get as much as they can while they can. They've got their own algorithms and tables, so they know how much they're gouging or how much they can gouge. One of the things I worry about is that gouging that went on. See, I laid it out like this in another video about, I don't know that politics really matters as much as we think it does. That the controlling interests are doing things that we're not really expecting. Like, if I am the controlling interest, like a bank or corporations, and I want a specific person to win, if my gouging to make it really hurt worse than it should be hurting influences and hopefully increases the odds of my pick getting elected, now that they've got their pick, will anybody, anywhere, actually prosecute or go after these people for gouging? And will the gouging that they did, the things that they learned about how much they can gouge at what rate, will those ever be discovered? Will anything ever be done about it? Or is that just permanently in the price of things? From now on, eggs are always going to be $4 or more. That's just life. Not if my models gain interest, all of the price of that kind of food would drop enough for it to be dangerous to the people that are profiting from this. But will anything ever be done about that? Or is it just that their candidate got what they want? They got what they wanted, and now they just have to wait for their opportunity to do it again. Because that's what happens. That's the capitalistic model. All right, so we now have a legendary president. I am saying that you can't take it away from him anymore. There's no removing that label of legendary. What he does from this point forward is simply how he behaves as a legend. That is how the legendary Donald Trump chose to use his legendary status. There's no more, oh, well, he's lost that. He's gotten enough tarnish. He's accomplished too much to lose it now. The rest of my life, there will be a legendary Donald Trump. That's history. Aren't you glad you lived to see it? Thank you. Have a good day.